What I learned from that is that if you create a competition format where the Chinese women only have to do bars and beam in order to win, they will destroy you in the face even while falling. They're like, oh, a meet where there's no vaulting? Yes. Say more things like that. Yes. We can get floor out of the way and then we just have to do bars and beam to win.
Team China won the inaugural LA28 mixed team format American Cup. It was a super exciting meet. Iowa State cut gymnastics, which freaking sucks, and they blamed everyone except themselves. Shocker. The UCLA Stanford Team Bronze reunion meet was spectacular, and we covered it on College and Cocktails this week. We're going to tell you about it. There were 9 tens awarded by at least one judge at the Florida LSU meet, which is a lot of those tens. But it was a great meet. Today is March 10th, 2026, and welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica. I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. Let us begin with the headlines. We broke the news earlier this week that USA Gymnastics is not fielding a team to the Turkey and Egypt World Cups.
USA Gymnastics will not field delegations to World Cup competition in Cairo and Antalya. With athlete safety our top priority, we cannot potentially put athletes at risk due to circumstances that are beyond the control of event hosts, World Gymnastics, and USAG.
I think this was also a statement about the failure of the government to be trusted in times like these when there is a war happening, because if you're in SWANA, I've learned the phrase SWANA. We don't call it the Middle East. SWANA stands for Southwest Asia, Northern Africa, and that is the correct way to designate.
Got it.
People that are there got a message from the State Department that's like, you should evacuate, and oh, you're on your own, suckers. So, haha, you've paid taxes for all these years, and now you're on your own. So, like, if something happened to the athletes there, they would not be able to, they could not depend on the U.S. government to help them evacuate, which is something that U.S. citizens have been able to rely on for a very long time, and now they can't. And so I think for that extra reason, it might be fine to be in Turkey, but for that reason, it is not as safe for the athletes. Also, meanwhile, New Zealand is there, and the athletes have to pay their own way to go to these meets for everything.
Great.
And I would just like New Zealand to know that, you know, they do have the same budget as a country as the Mormons, and the Mormons are heavily
the same
invested.
budget as a country. Like, if New Zealand were a country, they'd have a budget.
No, like, those sheep are making them like $250 billion, you know, and the special effects for movies. And the Mormons have the same
That's
what,
just so you know, Jessica's aware of 2 things about New Zealand, and it is Lord of the Rings and sheep.
That's right, and it's gorgeous and not polluted. So, and the haka, don't forget the haka. So anyway, the Mormons have invested in the best gymnastics TV coverage there is, so I would just like to direct New Zealand how they should use their money. Okay, let's talk about Iowa State cutting gymnastics. This is horrible.
Yeah. So Iowa State, just to review, they canceled the women's gymnastics season initially for 2026, and then a few weeks later, since the last time we really had a chance to talk about things, announced that they were eliminating the women's gymnastics program entirely for reasons that I still find to be insufficient. We've never got an explanation. I mean, also, I don't think there is a sufficient reason. Like, I don't think there is a good justifiable argument, but what we've gotten is certainly not that. Because it's all just like, oh, well, there were conflicts between the athletes and the coaching staff and the parents. And I'm like, okay, well, when aren't there? What sport?
Welcome to sports.
What team doesn't have those what college team at your university doesn't have those problems? That's not a reason. You haven't given a good reason. And this is a particularly bad reason.
Yep. And I think the statement as a friend, so the AD put out a video explaining why they were cutting gymnastics, and it sounded like a drunken tirade from like a chauvinist pig character from the 70s on a South Park episode. But also
those 70s South Park episodes. Oh,
when they go back
the characters
in time.
From the past.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I understand.
Also, a friend texted me and said basically the AD just said, "Bitches be crazy." That sums it up.
Basically. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not an exaggeration. That's how basically there's no other way to read this other than Iowa State said, women, they're all like, me, 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 me. So we decided to cut gymnastics.
Right.
That's what it is. That's all they've ever said. They were conflicts. We don't want to deal with them anymore.
If you could narrow down, like, I don't know if there was a way to sue a program for loss of opportunity for sexism, then I feel like the whole statement would be that. Then the good thing about this is they are honoring scholarships. They are allowing people to transfer. Can you imagine if they were like, no sport for you and you can't transfer? Yeah, so that is good. What's really interesting to me, and I think like the strongest statement we've ever had. Basically, this statement from KJ Kindler, who is obviously, it's so good. So she was an Iowa State gymnast. She was the coach at Iowa State when they were really good, and she got them to the Super Six and then left. She left Iowa State, and they were idiots for letting her go because now she has won 7 championships with Oklahoma, and they have a chandelier palace to train in. This statement from her to the Des Moines Register was the effect. Like, if we had like Ellie Black spit into the camera when you asked her, how do you feel about XYZ? That's how strong of a statement this is from KJ. It is so cutting. So what are your favorite parts of her statement?
Oh, maybe I'll just read the whole thing. So KJ said, what's most disturbing is the attempt to place blame on the sport of gymnastics itself. That narrative is not just inaccurate, it is unjust. College gymnastics is thriving nationwide. It is one of the fastest growing women's sports in the NCAA, with rising participation, expanding programs, and surging fan engagement across the country. To diminish a sport built on achievement, integrity, and academic distinction is to overlook the extraordinary young women who define it. Accountability and experience matter, and when those elements are absent, it is not the athletes who should bear the consequence.
Damn!
Correct.
Oh,
good one, KJ.
Yes. She doesn't make, she doesn't weigh in a lot, but when she does it very well. I couldn't agree more.
She does not tend to speak flippantly, as Jessica has learned sometimes when you try to ask her silly questions. A kid is like, I don't really understand what you're talking about right now. You want me to have chandeliers? Let me think about what I'm going to say.
Yeah. She's a serious lady that gets shit done, which is why she left Iowa State. Because they
were willing to invest in the program, and she was like, okay, I will go somewhere that will.
And some athletes have spoken out now saying that they had consistently complained about the head coach and they were not listened to, and also that athletes have broken bones in the pit because the pit has concrete under it and is not the correct pit. And we had athletes and other coaches have talked about that as well. Having concrete at the bottom of a pit, this is how people break their necks. It's so unsafe. So, yeah, it's incredibly sad, but also clearly Iowa State under this AD doesn't deserve gymnastics. And I hope if they add another women's team that they refuse it. Because I'm sure it's going to be wrestling, and I would be like, no. You guarantee all of these things and total autonomy from this AD, and then we'll coach there. We'll start a program. That's what I like. I got the opportunity to talk with a new USAG president, Kyle Albrecht, at the American Cup. And I have to say, you guys, I would tell you exactly what I think. I was impressed with him. I was like, oh, they picked another person that doesn't lead from ego, is very eager to listen and open to feedback, and does not fuck around when it comes to abuse or the value that a USA Gymnastics membership brings and that it matters. So that interview I'll have for you next week, but I think I overall was very hopeful. And he seems like I think the most important thing is in that role is you have to listen and you have to have good emotional intelligence and low ego. And that is what I got from him. And I was like very happy. So, because, after we were done I was asking him questions and I was like, so do you have time for feedback? Because I have a list.
And then you unfurled a scroll of like, here are my complaints over the last 40 years.
Yes. And he was really good about listening to everything. So, and had really good questions. So next week, bring you that interview. Let's talk about the inaugural mixed team format that will be used at LA28 and the rebirth of the American Cup. It was the 50th anniversary of the first American Cup, not the 50th American Cup, but the 50th anniversary. Because 1976, it was like Nastia.
1976. Nastia did a double tuck. And then Nellie Kim named it after herself.
That's what happened? Yes.
Yes, Nastia did a double tuck at the 1976 American Cup.
Yeah.
It was a big...
Yeah. So China...
I loved listening to Tim Daggett be shocked that everyone was falling on everything. I was like, you've been to American Cup before, right?
This is what it's for.
How it is, especially when the beam is in the dark.
The beam, you guys. Okay, we're going to deep dive into this whole thing.
I just had to talk about,
Yes.
I was like, why is everyone falling on beam? And I was like, well, maybe because it's March and also the beam is in the dark.
It's literally in the dark. The photo. Okay, but I have to say, you guys have to look at some of the pictures that Fact Checker took because they are some of the most beautiful pictures he has ever taken or I've ever seen in gymnastics. And that's saying a lot because you know how many photo gymnastics books. I said I wasn't going to do a deep dive, but anyway.
Yeah, but you had to brag about your husband.
Oh, they are stunning. I'm like, this looks like Taylor Swift's concert photographer took these. They're so pretty. And it only happened because the beam lighting was so bad that the athletes were lit in this beautiful way. But it sucked for them, but it was great for the photos in podium training. So anywho, you guys. All right. So before we deep dive on this, China won their 3-round competition. China won the final round by over 3 points. Over the US, who were silver, and then Japan in third. What did you learn from this first?
What I learned from that is that if you create a competition format where the Chinese women only have to do bars and beam in order to win, they will destroy you in the face even while falling. They're like, oh, a meet where there's no vaulting? Yes. Say more things like that. Yes. We can get floor out of the way and then we just have to do bars and beam to win. If that were the format of every meet, China would be the million-time defending gold medalists. If they could just do bars and beam all the time. Yes, they're like, yes, correct. This is our format. We have won gold. We will win every gold. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's totally accurate. Japan, even with Daiki, third after a big problems in the final round, but
the Japanese men won the men's scores in the final round.
Yeah. As I said, they were going to. I was like, it's going to be China or Japan. So this was a brutal format, and which would made it super exciting. It was so exciting to watch. So this is 3 rounds, no scores carry over. Round 1, you start with all 8 teams. And I was like, I can't wait for everyone to see Brazil on floor. Ana Luisa is back, and it almost made me cry. It's so gorgeous. And then what happens? Even though that U.S. Brazilian Sooner, Vitaly Guimaraes, competes for Brazil now and did such a great floor routine, I was so happy for him. They were out in the first round along with the Philippines. And I was like, no, but the beauty. And then I was like, I sound like Spencer now. I'm like, it's not fair. I didn't get to see my favorite floor routine. I was disgusted with myself. But also, then I wish...
That sounds like me? What did I do? What does it sound like?
You said it's not a real meet because everyone can't do all the things, or it feels incomplete to you, or not even, or something. Yeah. See, I remember the things you say.
Kind of.
That was
with your own emotional interpretation, so that no one can recognize it. That's what I get. Jessica will be like, Spencer said this, and then you flower up the language so no one can recognize it came from me.
It is the essence of what you said. I've distilled it into a beautiful salad of happiness and emotions and tears, and repeat it back. So I was basically in tears. I almost thought the U.S. wasn't going to make it to the second round, and then I was like, oh no, it's 6 teams in the second round. So okay, down to 6 teams. I thought the U.S. was out and not going to make it after 2 falls from Asher. Which it would have been really funny.
I was so deeply I was like, you know what? The U.S., you had the chance to do the funniest thing ever and just immediately be eliminated.
Yep. But Asher got a 10.85, and I was like, because he had 2 falls, and I was like,
tried to do it the second time.
And you can replace someone for an injury in this format at any time, as long as the new person has to stick to they can't repeat an event that's already been done.
If you have your full team, if you're not Japan,
And I was like, surely a concussion protocol should be in place right now. But then I watched the replays and it didn't actually look like, we've seen falls off high bar where someone hits so hard their head bounces. And those are the ones that make me nervous. But actually he didn't. When I watched it back, I was like, oh, it didn't actually look like that was what happened. But they could have been done. So the other thing that happened, the reason the U.S. made it to the next round is Charlie Bullock and her big ass D on bars. She did amazing, a 14-1 with all the stalters. She's like, give me all the positions. I'm put them in here. I'm going to have perfect form. You're welcome. My name is Charlie Bullock. I can also dance. Thank you. I'll be here all week. The killer of this session was the British and Mexico were out and like rare mistakes from Abby Martin on beam.
Yeah, that was one of those beams where she was off from the start and then was gone, and it was like, oh, now I'm gonna wobble on like a straddle jump for the first time since I was like 7 years old. Great, this is fun. This is fun for me.
What I love about Abby, though, is you never have to guess how she's feeling. She was just like, this sucks. And it's so much worse, this format, because like, when it's your fault because no one else gets to compete. That's it. It's over. So it's not like, oh, I messed up, but the team can make up, like a team final, which is also what makes it so much more exciting because the pressure is so much more on the individual for the team. But okay, then the other thing that happened with Mexico is world floor finalist and Bad Bunny ambassador, Natalie Escalera from Mexico, also had a funky, weird floor. The crowd did love it, though, I have to say.
Obviously, yeah.
They also loved Rodrigo, who I told NBC, I was like, he's doing a straddled side flip in, piked half out on floor. This is insane. And as I predicted, the crowd went nuts when he did it. Some people thought he got lost in the air and made a mistake because it wasn't as beautiful as podium training. But I hope you guys got to see it. You can watch all the routines on USA Gymnastics routine feed,
YouTube?
Which we'll link to. Yeah, on their YouTube. That's what it's called, a routine feed. So I hope you guys watch that. Because
that's what the website of YouTube is called.
Yes.
We don't call it YouTube. We just call it routine feed. Because that does always happen to me in searching for anything where I like forget that there are other things that aren't gymnastics that exist. So I'll go on YouTube and just type like Ferrari and assume like everyone knows I'm talking about Vanessa Ferrari, right? There's no other thing Ferrari could refer to. And then YouTube's like things about cars or something. And I'm like, ew. Get out of here, routine feed. You're supposed to be routinefeed.com.
So then we are in round 3, Sans, Mexico, and the British. And so now we're down to 4 teams, and the U.S. squeaked into silver only after Rina Kishi got spiethed on floor.
Yeah,
which
she did get spiethed.
Twice. It happened on her first pass and on her second pass. But she didn't land out of bounds like Asher Hong, which honestly was kind of a boss move.
Well, after she got spiethed, she landed out of bounds.
She did land out of bounds. But like Asher Hong literally landed both feet out of bounds and was just like, you're welcome.
But stuck.
He did. It was impressive. He had a bunch of mistakes, but not on that last pass, except that it was, the boundaries couldn't hold him. So, yeah. And so China was in first.
China gold, US silver, Japan bronze. Spain advanced to the final and was the other team in the final and finished 4th.
Yeah. And then I accidentally became the photographer for Team Japan. So, yeah, it was, they were like, I thought I was in the way. So I was like, oh, let me move back. And they're like, no. And it handed me 2 phones and a camera to take photos. So I enjoyed my role very much. And then I got to talk to Mai, which was very fun. And she's an absolute delight. Before we go into our deep, deep dive and tell you what was done right, what was done wrong, and how to improve everything, let's tell you about College and Cocktails this week. This is the special extra Q&A podcast we do for our club members who help pay the bills around here because we are independent. We don't have those big P&G dollars. So this is the unfiltered post-meet breakdown that we do every week. And this week we are watching Utah at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be doing, so that is, it's on Saturday, and we're probably going to start.
It's going to be a late one.
Yeah, like 9 p.m. Pacific. So
the meet starts at 7:30 Pacific, so it's going to be way after 9.
Yeah, and then they're going to do all the senior stuff, which we will not stick around for. We were for that. We'll be leaving. So we hope that you guys can join us. And if you're not already a member, you get lots of extra stuff. Like you can get the podcast tour pass.
4 live shows for the price of 3.
And it's all at gymcastic.com. Join the club tab. American Cup deep dive. Questions answered that we had on the preview show.
Yeah, I wanted to know if it felt like a team competition. Were your teammates there? Were you watching your routine, or were you just were they off, doing their own thing?
So all the teams had their own kiss and cry, which needs to eventually be sponsored, be couches, and have, Puffs sponsor like the figure skating does, like so many opportunities. But during the beginning of the meet, there was a lot happening. There were several routines going on at the same time, and the teams generally were in their space. By the last round, all bets were off. China and Japan ran over to high bar, then they ran over to watch floor. Like they were all together and supporting their teams, which I loved. But it was nice to see some of the teams were very connected, the men's and the women's team. And like Daggett was going as close as he could and like cheering everybody on and high-fiving on his team. And some teams were sort of like totally in their own zone, which I also don't want to judge because this isn't college gymnastics and some people need to just focus. But, I like a lot of feelings and high-fiving. That is what I would like to see at a meet like this.
Yeah.
So both kind of, they also...
Both a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. They also had, which we didn't have in the arena. I had no fucking idea what was happening. If I didn't have 3 screens open, I would have had no idea.
That was what I wanted to know. Like, could the fans who bought tickets tell, like, okay,
absolutely not.
Who's winning? What do you need to win?
No, you had no idea what was happening. They had individual scores in the circle, but they didn't even have the scores up on the Jumbotron thing.
You didn't even have a team standings?
Yeah. No, and when I talked to Mai Murakami afterwards, she was like, yeah, I was like, what would you improve? And she said, yeah, we'd like to know what the scores are. They had screens in front of their team area, but they were more the lineups, it looked like, not the actual scores, because we have all of these pictures of the teams all like writing things down by hand. Like I think Japan and China were literally keeping track by hand because they didn't know what they needed. And it was, that part of it was a huge miss. And I also want to I know this was sort of a last minute put together meet. So I know that there's a lot of things that USA Gymnastics wants to do to improve it. I also talked to Watanabe after the meet, who looked a little grumpy. And maybe that's because he never sleeps and is always traveling, or because Japan didn't win. But he did say, it was okay, but they need a big screen. And I agree. I mean, one of the things that's great about the big European meets, and I think they had it in Jakarta too, is having that one wall that's just a huge screen. So you can see routines featured on there, and they're constantly the scores, and the scores are huge. And that's
basically a requirement for Worlds now, right?
Yeah. I think it literally is a requirement for Worlds now, and it makes a huge difference. So I agree with him because we had no idea what was going on, and neither did the teams. What did you think, though? Could you watch the actual Peacock broadcast or just the YouTube?
Yeah, I watched it on Peacock.
Okay.
So, it was the normal, like, watching it on NBC where it's like, oh, one routine and then a commercial. One routine and then a commercial and then a close-up of the U.S. athletes while someone else is going. But they were I think my complaints were my normal complaints about an NBC broadcast. But we did have the team standings that were updated, so you could kind of see. I would want like a little more of, expand the window, see what everyone's score actually is, not just the team total, so you could kind of see how they were going from time to time. But we could follow who was winning.
Yeah.
The issue was that, like, look, Philippines and Brazil were eliminated in the first round. Well, we hadn't seen any of their routines, so it was kind of like, some teams we didn't even know were in the competition were eliminated after the first round. Okay, that kind of means nothing to me, but
yeah, that's the thing. And it was, I have to say, I feel like the important thing about this meet was not so much, I feel like if this was a regular gymnastics meet, we would cover like skills people did and scores that they got, but that wasn't really the thing about this meet. The thing about this meet was who's going to make it to the next round, which made it so exciting. And I also liked that in the first round, you never had to wait for a score because someone was going right away. Like they started one, it was like, like if it was Japan, Japanese man would go on floor, Japanese woman would go on beam, and then the next person was going right away. So you had the next country. There was no waiting around for scores until the next person went. There was always something to watch. But yeah, it was just really brutal when it was one person's whole fault that someone got knocked out.
Well, that's no different than any other sport.
I know, but it was just so much more
team final at like the Olympics. You go up last on beam and you fell.
Okay, only if you go last on beam and you fall. Only if you're the last person up. But this was no one else in team final. If you fall or fall 3 times in the first event, the rest of the team can still compete. Like they still have an opportunity. But they're not just like, okay, your meets
your competition's over. Yeah.
Your competition's
thanks for coming. You didn't get to even do one routine because your team got eliminated after the first round.
Yeah. Like Brazil was like,
should be a head-to-head bracket.
I like a bracket.
I feel like, because especially then, you can't just like dick around and get a 10 on high bar and still advance. Like maybe like it clarifies the head-to-head is more exciting, and I think it clarifies what's going on, especially for the earlier rounds.
Yeah. I also like a bracket because I just think it's easier to follow, but I feel like they'd have to compete more. Well, yeah, there
would be fewer routines in the meet if you had like 8 teams, 4 teams, and then like a gold medal match and a bronze medal match rather than 8, 6, and 4.
Yeah. But this format was so exciting though. It just, I mean, I know a bracket still works the same way.
Because you said like you didn't know who was winning.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't know who was going to make it and who was going to win. And that's what actually made it exciting. That's why I was like, oh my God, the US is going to be out in the first round. Like this is nuts because every routine mattered so much. It was really exciting. And I've heard really varying feedback from people about what they liked and what they didn't like. Some people were like, this was so boring. I had no idea what was going on. It was so slow. And then other people in the arena was like, this was exciting and really fun, but I had no idea who was going to make it. And then I've heard, I loved this, even watching it on Peacock. This was such an exciting format. I think the other thing, just talking to the athletes, that was so different about this meet is everyone was so chill and so relaxed. It was a very different environment than a World Championships, and the format just sort of made it less pressure in some ways because you had to do so much less. More pressure in individual routines, but less gymnastics to do, if that makes sense. Like the Japanese guys were just like joking around and doing full, when they mess up their dismounts, just doing full like goofball exits from the podium because like what's that thing where people lean over and put their arms behind them and run? There's a lot of that from the Japanese. No, wait, there's like a cartoon, like you run across it's a meme thing cartoon. Okay. You run with your anyway. I literally laughed out loud twice watching the Japanese men's shenanigans, and they were very funny. The one thing I will say, this meet was way too long. Way too long. It was very exciting, but too long. Like by the time we were in the last, I think 5.5, 6 hours since the athletes got there from warm-ups.
Yeah. They did get it. I was skeptical that they were going to get it in their time frame, which I think they did. They squeaked in under the wire to get it in their projected time frame. So that was good. But yeah, it gets a little draggy. It
would have been faster if they weren't holding people for TV. And by holding people for TV, I mean, someone would be standing there ready to go and TV would be running across the arena to get there to film them. And I'm like, you guys have more than one camera on the floor. That's what we should do. Okay. Debate club time.
Okay. Whoa.
Good and bad debate
club.
Am I
ready? Who can say? All right.
Should teams be able to change lineups mid-meet, change strategy?
It doesn't make any sense.
Why?
Because you have, like, what do you want people to change?
Okay. So, like, let's say you make your lineup and then you see, oh, Daiki fell on high bar. We don't need to put a hard routine up. We can put an easier, a score that's going to be
So we're talking about
13.
the first round when you have more options. Because by the final round, you're locked into the events you have to
the final round you
can't.
The only
ones left.
And everyone has to do 2 events each round, men and women. and you cannot repeat an event. So by the last one, you can't change anything. But yeah, you could say, oh, we don't need to put our hard routine in now. We can save that because we know so-and-so got a 10
because
on
we know
high
we're
bar.
going to advance anyway, even
Yes.
with a lower score.
So
I
let's
feel
save
like
our
it's
hard
kind
routines for
of
later.
a marginal, like it's such a, it's not, not that important. It might happen, but kind of like, and also we talked about logistically, you have to submit your routines so they know what events are being used and how to run the first round when you have two routines going simultaneously.
Yeah, but that can be, yeah, I hear you. You know what I did love about this meet though, is that there were basically every man that got on camera was a GymCastic listener when Flip came out and like challenged people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And some people at meets this weekend were also wearing their GymCastic merch. Like there was a Team Bronze shirt at the Stanford UCLA meet. And, now is the time to get your college and cocktails shirts. Get ready for NCAAs and especially the live show. And we have lots of stuff in there. So I did appreciate that Flip knew which people to pick out of the audience. And they were all of our people. So thank you, Flip. Flip was also there and scared the shit out of the Japanese team when he like popped one of those popper things and glitter and sparkle paper went everywhere. It wasn't as bad as Simone at Jezelo with Nora Flatley and all of them. That was way worse of a freak out. Like Japan pretty much held it together. Do you agree with the events that were chosen? Were they exciting?
I think in general, yeah, except with one strong exception is that there was too much P-bars.
What would you replace P-bars with? Not pommel horse.
I would. I know your answer.
Spencer, stop that.
You want high stakes risk. You were all about like, oh, this is an exciting format. This is exciting. Nothing is more exciting than everyone who goes in the final round just has to do beam and pommel horse. That's what I want.
Ugh, that's horrible.
Replace P-bars with pommel horse.
But
this is my political platform.
Pommel horse is a hideously ugly event, except for the 10 people that do it perfectly in the world.
Who is watching this because they want only pretty things? I want fall.
Me!
I want crazy nonsense. I want slapstick comedy. This is what I'm looking for from gymnastics, and pommel horse kind of delivers it.
I mean, it does, but I mean, they put beam in the dark. What else do you want?
I know. Pommel horse in the dark.
Beam was not, I will say it wasn't dangerously in the dark. It wasn't like that one. Remember that was like Baku World Cup where literally everyone fell on bars because it was lit like a strip club.
Yeah. So this is what we talked about being in the dark. Do you think it was just to me, like watching felt like Beam was in the dark?
No, it was
also felt like Beam was in the dark.
It was actually in the dark. And where I was sitting was directly lined up with Beam. So it was like the light stopped right where the Beam podium was. And then the Beam was actually in a shadow. And they didn't have to put Beam there. They could have put Beam on the vault runway or they could have moved the podium for vault because Nastia Cup was before. So this won't be a problem.
That's why they had like a vault.
They had a vault. Yeah. And so they could have taken that down or some of it down. And I know the people from like Spieth and the equipment people are like, do you know how long that takes? Are you kidding? But I feel like there's a way it could be done. Maybe give yourself another hour between the meets to move that over. So it would have been closer to P-bars and floor, and it would have been in the light. But it did make for very pretty pictures. So, yeah. Expect some questions about this in the games this week, the GymCastic games, because there's the Wordle and the news quiz, and I'm giving you hints. There were incredible opportunities for comedy at this competition.
Oh, there were. My favorite one was when the U.S. men tried to high-five Claire Pease, and she looked at them like they were aliens. That was the best thing. They tried to high-five her, and she looked like, I don't understand the gesture and I won't respond to it. It was great. She was like, what is this? She got broed at and she was like, I am not prepared for this. And I felt I understood her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was the most relatable moment of the competition for me when they were like, she was like, I guess. Oh, high five? Sure.
She's like, I did do a double front half, but also, ew. My favorite moment of comedy was, of course, Nastia Cup was before this, and our beloved Nastia did provide us with proof that gymnasts are the clumsiest people on earth. When
Excellent. Good one, Nast.
video of her walking into some equipment and falling over backwards. It's so funny, you guys. I just love it so much. Oh, thank you, Nastia. Oh, yes. And gymnasts have a sense of humor because they're used to falling over all the time. Tell me about NBC. Is there, because I didn't watch the Peacock because I wanted to remain pure. This is the only time that I want to remain pure in general.
Yeah. I mean, it was an NBC gymnastics broadcast. I felt like I got a lot of close-ups of the U.S. gymnasts, a lot of assumptions that we wanted the U.S. team not to eat it on every event, because I think that would have been the funniest part. They were eliminated. Yeah.
I did not like the messaging from the host, which was Paul Judah, which was a lot of
in arena hosting.
In arena, which was, he did tell us, okay, here's who's advancing, and the teams were like, who's advancing? But then there was a lot of, and you're gonna see U.S. gymnasts, U.S. gymnasts, U.S. gymnasts, and I was like, this is rude. Olympic and world champion Hashimoto Daiki is here, so you should probably mention him 1,000 times. There were so many incredible and very decorated gymnasts there, and they weren't the U.S. athlete, except Hesley is an Olympic gold medalist. And I just felt like, I know every country does this, but it really bothers me. Especially, I just was like, oh, stop talking about the U.S. It's called the American Cup.
We see them all the time. That is my thing about watching these broadcasts. I'm like, the U.S. gymnasts, I see them all the time. Yes. I want to see, especially, and it is like, the era is different. There is a lot more opportunity to see gymnasts from other countries, like, because of the internet and whatnot, than the days of like VHS Trading Club, NBC broadcasts, where the one spring NBC meet was your one opportunity to get to know any of the gymnasts who weren't from the United States. Like, that's how you became fans of people, and that's how you saw their routines. We had people write in about that when we talked about the US Romania international cups, that these US Romania China, that these were their opportunities to see those athletes. So I'm still kind of like, no, I know who Hesley is. I feel like I see her all the time. I want to see, other people I don't see all the time. And so I assume that I'm the minority in that, but that's kind of how I always feel. Like, these competitions are not about the U.S. gymnasts. They're about the opportunity for U.S. gymnastics fans to see the gymnasts we don't already know.
And also to like show them your appreciation that they're here. And I feel like the crowd did that so well. It was a really good crowd. They clapped for all the right things. They got excited about the right things. They went crazy for, like Escalera's floor routine. They were a great, really appreciative crowd. They went crazy for like Hashimoto's high bar routine, like some of the right things they were super excited about. And I think that how many people have actually had the opportunity, to your point, to see the Olympic and world champion in person ever before? And he was right there, and he did a great job of hyping to the crowd. Like, he knew his job here, and he did it really well. And I know not every gymnast is like that, but he did a great job of being like excited and playing to the crowd. And after he stuck, like, he got the message. And also, I know that this is not a World Cup, so you have more freedom to hype these people up. Before Daiki goes on high bar, you could say, and now, closest to Kohei, Hashimoto Daiki. And if you want to hear a story about a hilarious interview with him on College and Cocktails this week, I did talk about his mix zone interview, which was I recommend listening to that. But he was also he understood. He was like, I'm on a really expensive vacation shopping trip, and I'm going to enjoy myself. And this meet doesn't mean anything except national pride, and I'm here, so I've achieved that. I did appreciate all the full twisting Shushinovas from the men on floor. I just want to talk about those and how happy they make me. Spencer, you know how I like to be prepared with snacks for any situation, especially in an arena
I do know this about you.
Nothing's open. And so I did bring with me on this trip my Huel, which you can see Huel, which is a nutritionally complete food, by the way, which is why I bring it. And it's almost empty because I have used almost all of it. And the reason I like this is it's 35 grams of protein. And you know, I like to have 40 in the morning. You know this about me, Spencer. I like to start my day with lots of protein.
Okay, yeah. That's how you start conversations, actually. You're like, here's my protein intake for today. Yeah.
Would everyone like to talk about how I feel about protein and keeping my muscles?
Yeah.
They are the most important thing in my life. Also, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. It's gluten-free. It's under $5 a meal, which is great when you're in arenas where a stick of gum costs $100. So you get a complete meal that you can grab and go, but they also have the ready to drink as well. So I like it. And I also like the chocolate flavor because you know how I feel about chocolate. It may be a priority in my life.
Limited time offer. Get Huel today with our exclusive offer of 15% off online with the code GymCastic15 at Huel.com/GymCastic15. New customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show.
And if you want to, you can do the post-checkout survey and support the show because we are independent and we really appreciate Huel. We are excited to have back on the show a Dr. Elliot Schwartz. Elliot provides database strategic insights to the U.S. Olympic high performance teams, including the acrobatic teams like gymnastics, figure skating, diving. He is also a figure skating official, judge, and data analyst. Let's talk to Elliot. Thank you so much for joining us, Elliot. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
So your data background is all I could think about this week. And when we did our at the American Cup and all the strategy stuff, but also because we did our what gymnastics can learn from figure skating. And I was like, why we should have invited Elliot to be here and guide us through these important discussions. Let's start with my first question for you, which is the coaches at American Cup, when I asked them about this, they felt like they wouldn't have enough time to adjust lineups in the middle of the meet. Do you think is that actually a logistical problem, or is that something that can be overcome?
I think it depends on what deadlines the competition organizers set for when you have to submit lineups and when you can change them. And I'm not sure exactly when those deadlines were for American Cup. And then I think, regardless of when the deadline is, I think you always have to consider the impact on the athletes and their readiness to perform.
But they only have to do 3 events.
And in some cases, maybe 2 or even 1, right? But like some athletes can do anything on the spur of the moment, and some athletes need more mental preparation. So I think I may imagine that Brett and Chelsea were very sensitive to that.
They were, and they did talk about that specifically. But then it was like, I was talking to Mai Murakami about it, and she was like, I don't know, I don't think we'd have time. But she didn't seem concerned about our athletes are ready to go at any time, which I'm so used to NCAA, which that's the whole thing. You have to be ready to go at any time to step in. And so you just train that way, then you're ready that way.
Yeah, but Japan only brought 2 athletes in each, men and women, right? So the athletes had to be ready to go at any time because they were going at any time.
Yeah.
And every time.
Yep. That is very true. Good point, Elliot.
This is great to have Elliot here. I don't even have to correct you. There's someone else. Someone else is doing it. It's great.
Oh, and by the way, Jessica, if you need to stop me at any moment, you can just put up a finger and I will shut up. So feel free to do that with me.
Is that a reference to what I did to Spencer last week?
Could have been.
Okay. Next question. So in our What Can Gymnastics Learn About from Figure Skating in the Winter Olympics episode, some people hated the idea of gymnastics using the +5, -5 skill credit system. I mean, violently upset. This is what we tried to get away from. We can't have anything that's ambiguous. This is the worst thing ever. How dare you? It's basically cheating. How do you respond?
Well, when we went to that system in figure skating in the early 2000s, there was a lot of resistance to it. And I think fundamentally it's because people dislike change. And when people are invested in a system, it's really hard for them to imagine something different. What I would say, I think gymnastics tried to find a way to reward in the past in the 10-0 system. Like I remember one of the first words I heard in a gymnastics broadcast was virtuosity. That was something that was, an attempt, I think, to reward. And now I think we don't really have that opportunity to reward. And when I look at like women's gymnastics, they've created the artistry checklist for beam and for floor. And that's been an attempt to try to overtly include artistry in the judging. But I think the +5, -5 offers a really great way to differentiate among, adequately done and, no deductions incurred versus done with panache and done with lots of great style. And I would say it's not ambiguous at all. Like if I think about singles and pairs, for each element, there are 6 specific things that were positive attributes that we're looking for as judges. So I'll talk about a jump since that relates very well to gymnastics. So like for a jump, it's good height and distance, good body position throughout the element, looks effortless, time to the music. In figure skating, we always have music. So time to the music matters. Entry, like surprise or difficult entry into the element. All those things are positive attributes we're looking for. And that's where we start when we're evaluating an element. And then we only reduce for any errors that occur, whether that's a fall or a step out. And there are specific reductions for that. Very similar in the way that there are deductions in gymnastics. But I love the fact that we're able to reward for things that are done positively. And in fact, figure skating started out with -3 to +3. And there was a feeling that didn't provide sufficient differentiation and properly reward athletes for what they did. So the move to -5, +5 was made in 2018.
That's funny because I was thinking, maybe 3. People could get behind a +3, -3, and a 3 would be like,
and there you go. And that would be better. I mean, if you have a way to reward positive attributes, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, because I'm like, that would be like your dismount is not just above the bar, it is 7 feet above the bar, and you flare it out before you land, wink at the judges, smoke a cigarette, and then salute before you actually feet touch the ground. Like, this is what we need to reward.
Right. And when we started with +3, -3, like one of the ways that the judging community kind of got their heads around it was like a +1 is like, wow. A +2 is like, oh, and a +3 was like, oh my God.
That's such a Jessica judging system.
Yeah, Jessica judging system sounds perfect for you. Yeah,
that's right. Stars, hearts, exactly.
Yes. Yes, but now we have these specific positive features that we're looking for.
So we had a situation at the American Cup where one gymnast in particular, I'm thinking of, that she missed like a value part. Essentially, she messed up a pass. And if that was the final round, it would have hurt them a lot more than it did in the end. And we always talk about how we want the routines submitted ahead of time so we can do what they did at Russian Cup. And by we, I mean the greater world of gymnastics. And we can there's a little screen like in figure skating. And I love that they use Nickelodeon sound effects for Russian Cup. So when someone does their series and they get credit, it goes, and then you see a little dot go in. Yay, they got credit. If people submitted their routines ahead of time, and like they do in figure skating, but someone has to change a pass to, like, they mess up like this and they're like, I have to Oksana Bayul my routine, I have to Netherlands it and do my version 7 of this routine. Is that something that can be done on the fly? Would it mess up a system like that? How does it work in figure skating if someone does a Bayul?
In figure skating, they're not beholden to what they submit. They can change anything they want on the fly. Overall, they still have to meet like the general program requirements, but yeah, they can change anything on the fly. It's just the planned program provides the technical panel, which is the figure skating version of the D panel, and the judges with a sense of what's coming. But one of the things that's different in figure skating is with the technical panel or the D panel, there's someone who's called the data operator. And that's a role that I play at international competitions. And
we love a data operator.
Yeah, a data operator, right? And I call it, it's like working at McDonald's. You're sitting at a touch screen. you're on headsets with the rest of the D panel. There's someone who's calling out the elements. And when they call it, I enter it on the touch screen. I can mark it for review. And that's what's happening when the skaters are in the kiss and cry after the program. And, if they want to like look to see if something was fully rotated, like should it receive full difficulty credit. So it's just, again, the planned program is just an idea of what's coming, but they're not bound to stick to it.
See, no barriers. That's what we like to see. Like,
no barriers.
And
I think about this a lot for gymnastics. I mean, one of the challenges in gymnastics is, you have as many elements in a gymnastics routine in 1 minute as you do in figure skating in like 4 minutes. So I think and also there's so many skills in gymnastics. I would love to, I'd love to work on an attempt to have a data operator on a gymnastics panel and also have a caller, but I also recognize the challenge of time.
Yeah. I want just a timer that's like, okay, you have 60 seconds or to change your lineup. Something like that. Like you can't take forever, but you have, because I feel like that could work with people going back and forth. I just feel like everything is possible and you just train for it. You train for changing that. And the coaches should have an idea of what they're gonna if we are gonna do Y, and you tell the gymnasts and everyone's ready, and we'd be so freaking exciting.
You're back to changing the line.
Yeah, I noticed we shifted there. Yeah.
Okay. First of all,
I will say one of the things about that is they have to, because men's and women's floor are both events you could do in this format. They couldn't just allow you to, and they had to go 2 at a time. Like a mag gymnast and a WAG gymnast were going simultaneously in the first round. So if the mag gymnast from one country was already planning to do floor, you couldn't at the last second say, oh, well, we want our WAG gymnast. She was going to do bars, but we want her to do floor instead because it's a higher score, because floor is already being used by someone on another team. So you would need 2 floor exercises in your arena.
Even better. Oh my God. I love it. Because part of what was so exciting about this was watching just like anarchy happening. And you're like, oh my God, is they going to even make it to the next round? You know, I love anarchy. Okay, so this is the obligatory Jessica thinks a specialist is the best thing in the world question. And I don't want to, this isn't a leading question, obviously, but you know how I feel. Sure. So what is the statistical ideal for apparatus selection strategy? So if you have 3 people on the team, obviously like Japan only brought 2 people because they're like 4 total, 2 women, 2 men. We don't need any help for Japan. But is it better to have specialists that you can save with the big D, or that's so consistent on one event so you can put them up? Like if Brazil had a specialist that never misses, even though they don't have a huge D, you're going to get, a 13 to get them through the next round. Is that the right thing to do?
I think, so it's a lame answer. I'll say it depends, but I'll explain it depends. I think it depends which country it is. Like when I analyzed the scores of the different athletes who were going to be competing in American Cup, I could see that, and I analyzed scores. I didn't just analyze difficulty, but it's like, okay, what scores have these athletes achieved? Because that's what determines the result. It was clear that Japan, China, and US had the highest scores and could achieve the highest scores in each round. So I think for them, it made sense to save the best scores for the third round, assuming that they would make it in. Whereas like other countries needed to put in their top athletes and top scores in the first round in order to qualify for the second round. And you could argue, well, if you use up your best scores in the first round, you're not going to win any medals. But I think for those teams, if they don't use their best scores in the first round, they're not going to even make the second round. So, and I think that worked for Spain. Spain was able to get into the third round because they used a strategy that was a little bit different than what the other countries used.
Mm-hmm. Is saving your biggest D for the last round the best strategy?
So that's a great question. And when we look at team events like this, it's always a game of consistency and potential, right? Or ceiling. And so I think if your team is the favorite, like if you were going in with like you're likely to score the highest, then you might value consistency a little bit more. And then, let's say for us, trying to go up, trying to beat Japan or China, maybe going for broke a little bit more might have been a strategy, the better strategy to win, even if that athlete was a little bit less consistent. And also, it depends on which athletes you have. And,
yeah,
in the team event, there's all the complexities of, you have to do so many of each, you have to do 2 of each routine type, and each athlete, can only compete a certain number of times. So
as I was watching American Cup, it of course did not end up mattering at all, but I was looking at the US women's selection and I was like, okay, why would you put up Charlie Bullock on bars in round 2 and Claire Pease in round 3 when you could have switched it and put up Charlie Bullock's bars would be the highest score? So am I insane, or did you see the same thing I saw?
I saw the same thing. And when I ran simulations, I had to make assumptions and guesses about which athletes and which routines would be in round 3. And I had assumed that would be the strategy as well. But I also think part of the job of the people making the decisions, in this case, I think it was Chelsea and Brett, they were looking at the athletes in practice. They know the athletes. They have to figure out, when are they going to be able to perform their best? And this was also a developmental competition for our athletes as well, because especially our women are relatively new seniors. And also Danny on the men's side was a new senior. So I think there are a lot of things to consider. And, again, a big part of, I think, this competition was developmental instead of just trying to win.
Mm-hmm. How reasonable and fair of you. What a mature answer.
and long-term focused on the part of Chelsea and Brett. So I think the opportunities they gave to each athlete, I think were really helpful to their development, and I think will be helpful.
So, Elliot, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the scoring and Alyssa Liu.
I was like, that's not a gymnastics score. Okay.
Yeah. If you're a visual listener, we're showing this breakdown of the judges' scoring. And as we know from the UCLA Stanford meet, as Casey Magnesium told us, that the most important thing is to find your inner Alyssa Liu. So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, I love this. When I first started working with Brett McClure in the men's gymnastics program, we were talking about collecting data and having a sense of athletes' past performance. And I was so this is a scoring protocol. This is available online. So for each athlete in figure skating, and you see this at all the different international and national competitions, each row is an element that's executed, and every element has a code. So in the case of element 1, 3F means triple flip. And then to the right of that, you can see numbers below the columns that say J1 through J9. That indicates the grade of execution, the -5 to +5 that we talked about, that each judge awarded for that element. And then the base value tells the difficulty of that element. So as opposed to having A, B, C, and D, and so on, in figure skating, each element actually has a numerical base value. But what's great about this is you can see what each judge awarded for each element, and then you can also see the artistic marks at the bottom. I expected to see something like this for gymnastics when I first started looking at data, and I was shocked and horrified to find that all I get is D score, E score, neutral deductions, and the total score. So there's no way to know what deductions a judge took for each skill. There's no way to know right away whether where full difficulty wasn't awarded by the D panel. And I think that's one of the great reasons to use, a -5 to +5 or -3 to +3 type scoring, is you can actually see how each judge evaluated each element. They're doing that now when they judge. They're scribbling down the deductions attached to each element, but unfortunately that paper gets thrown away and no one gets to see that, and that data gets lost.
Yep. No receipts. We get no receipts.
And that makes me crazy.
Yeah. And it's crazy to see the judges, if there's an evaluation, holding up their papers and they're you have to know the shorthand, if that's how they take their notes, to know what they're saying. And it's it's all shrouded in mystery. And I love that the athletes actually get a receipt. This is so much better. And data collection, leave nothing to chance.
Yes, exactly.
Figure skating, once again, doing it right. In some ways. Elliot, thank you so much for being with us today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and please keep collecting the sexy data. We depend on you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you, Spencer. It's a thrill to join you. Thank you. Keep doing the great work.
And now it's time for the NCAA update. So, the bronze medal reunion meet happened. We discussed
It
discussed
did.
it at length on College and Cocktails.
Mhm.
That was our featured meet. The best part of the whole thing, Spencer,
Yeah.
Anna Barbosu and Jordan tied once again on floor, with Sullivan and Levi also tying. That was a 4-way tie on floor for 9-9. But I just love that the whole bronze medal mess, they could have tied and both gotten medals at the Olympics in the Paris floor final if the IOC would have let them. But here they proved with very different gymnastics, they are just as good as each other. And it was international world peace, and it made me so happy. And this meet was so good.
It's a little too nice. It's a little too nice bow on everything for me.
My favorite.
I would have liked a 0.025 difference. Controversially.
If only they allowed that deduction, a quarter tenth, to be taken.
Well, when you average the
yeah,
judges,
so when you
get 'em.
average, yes. They had a nice post-meet moment together where they chatted, and that was really cool. And shout out to the people at the meet wearing their College and Cocktails and Team Bronze t-shirts. We saw you guys. Thank you. LSU at Florida. Insanity. Where should we start?
I didn't get to watch this one live, and I was like, I'll see. And then I heard about it, and I was like, oh, I gotta watch this from start to finish. It was okay. So Florida won, LSU Florida dual meet on Sunday. Florida won with a 198.45, the highest score of the season. LSU had a mere 198.325. It was, in many respects, an extremely high quality competition. There were a lot of really, really good routines. Both teams brought their sticks out. There was a lot of very high level gymnastics. And then also it kind of went off the rails at the end and got ridiculous. So, everything we're looking for. Only one actual 10, which was under my expectation for this meet, but 9 other 9.975s. It became kind of its own inside joke, this meet, because every routine got a 9.975 of very varying quality.
Or as Sam Pesek said, a 10 is not supposed to be a vibe.
Oh, then Sam, you know better than that. You cover a lot of these meets.
Also, shout out to Sam and John Roethlisberger for going from American Cup and taking like a red eye and going straight to Florida to cover that meet.
I'm so tired. Yeah.
I needed to basically, we got left at like 6 a.m. Coop drove though, so I could sleep, so I could be awake for the heated rivalry drag brunch that I went to with my friends. And then I came home and went back to sleep. So I don't know how Sam does it, and John Roethlisberger, because he's like older than me, I think. How do you do it? Oh,
Poor
you're
John.
crazy
Poor
elite. This is how he's an elite genetics with those being an elite athlete, but also elite dad jokes.
I will say I think what exemplified the ridiculous of this meet and the varying qualities of 9.975s was Sky Blakely's 2 9.975s on bars and floor, where she went on bars. I would have been fine with a 10. That was magnificent, stuck landing, 9.975. I feel like it was lineup position only. And then she went on floor and her double front cowboy flexed feet to a stag jump that basically speethed. And they were like, same. That was of the same quality, 9.975. And I was like, okay, well, this meet's gone totally off the rails. The highlight for me was, I think the most satisfying, most impressive part was LSU's streak of vaults at the end of that rotation with Kalia Lincoln and then Amari Drayton and then Kaylin Chio all sticking in a row.
They're so good.
All for 9.975. That was, and Connor McLean had also stuck a very nice Yurchenko full earlier in the lineup. That was 4 vaults of one of the best vault rotations you'll see. And that was, I think, the strongest single aspect of the meet, aspect of gymnastics that we saw. But I want to know from you, if you had like a cage match, I don't know, whatever. Kalia Lincoln versus Amari Drayton versus Kaylin Chio, those vaults, who wins? Who's the most tenniest of those 3 that all got 9.975?
God, they were all so good. For me, it was Amari Drayton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me this time, hers was the best of the bunch, but they're all so, so good. Also, we didn't have a great, I have to watch the side angles again, the judges angle, because in the live, it was to the, we're at the end of the mat. So I feel like I didn't get the best.
Yeah,
angle.
you had to judge by the
hips.
replay. We got some replays,
Yeah.
but you had to go by those because the front angle that's nothing.
Yeah, that's trash. But I feel like Amari Drayton because, it's all about everyone can straighten their legs. I mean, most of them at this level can straighten their legs on vault. You can get your legs straight and you point your toes.
I can't, but that's not what we're judging.
But are your hips open? As we know, can you do it like Anna Roberts of Stanford? If not, then no. But yeah, this time Amari Drayton, even though I'm so glad that Kalia Lincoln is back in, just let her do the double full so that she can get a 10.
I will say, Kalia Lincoln's is almost the winner for me. But when she sticks, her vault is the Audrey Davis bars of this season because almost everything about it is the best one. And it's better than anyone else is doing in terms of execution, post-flight, leg position, dynamics, high and far. But she has a leg separation in pre-flight that you have to, like her pre-flight repulsion straddle legs that you have to deduct. And it's very reminiscent for me of Audrey Davis, where it's like everything you're doing on bars is better than everyone else and you should score better than everyone else. But the dismount has a deduction in it. And that's kind of how I felt with Kalia. My other contention is, I think Kaylin Chio did not benefit from how well Kalia and Amari did right before her. I think if they hadn't landed great, she would have got a 10 from both judges. Because Kaylin Chio did the same vault. The thing with Kaylin Chio is that it's always the same. She did the same vault she's gotten a 10 for before. It's not as big as Kalia's or Amari's. It's not as dynamic.
Yeah.
It's very well executed and it's not lacking in those qualities, but it's not as big. And so then when the ones before her lunge, then it's like, oh, well, she's stuck, superior. But when they also stake, you're kind of like, oh, it wasn't as big. I think if they did worse, she would have scored better.
This is why we need the 0.3, -3 bonus virtuosity points. Because
then you can give Kalia +3 post flight.
Yeah.
And maybe Chio like +2.
Yeah. Because we need to reward excellent. Okay. 10 updates. We have 4 more for 24
Our weekly
this season.
four every week. Now 24 for the season. So Selena Harris on beam did get the one routine that both judges agreed on at the LSU Florida meet. Got a 10. Jordan Childs on bars. Azarea Akbar for Alabama on bars got a 10. And JJ Coleman for Ohio State on floor also got a 10. That's the first Ohio State 10 on floor in 23 years. So that's fun. A different name, a different person.
She so deserves. I love that routine so much. Honestly, watching that, I was like, this reminds me of when nobody believed me that, who was it at Denver? That's right. And I called it. No one believed me. Denver national champion on
Nina
floor.
McGee?
Yes, Nina McGee. I was like, she's going to win. She's going to be national champion. People and I was like, just watch. This is the best floor routine. JJ Coleman, you guys. Ohio State.
So we had 4 10s this week and 32 9.975s. Is there anything you were learning? Anything you're extrapolating from that?
The more the season goes on, the more tired the judges are of using their pens. / the gymnasts are also this good. They just can't.
But then
they don't have tools to differentiate them.
If that were the only explanation, wouldn't we be seeing more of those 9.975s be 10s? If it were just like, everything's a 10, whatever.
No.
Okay.
No. I think that they are being more conservative with the 10s for NCAA. I mean, not for, Yeah.
Rankings update. Florida, we have one change in the top 5. Florida moved ahead of Alabama for 3rd. So Florida got that 198.45. Alabama, 2-meet weekend, its 2 lowest scores of the season, but also set a program bars record. So, things are going March. Not a lot of changes in the individual rankings. So Kaylin Chio retains number 1 in the all-around and on vault and on beam. Chloe Lecourcier is still number 1 on bars, got another 9975 right before Azarea Akbar got a 10. Chloe has 4 9975s this season, and then Jordan Childs is still number 1 on floor ahead of Lily Smith, but Lily Smith is injured, but she's still ranked. She still has a ranking, and then Kamara Williams is up to 3rd in the rankings on floor. What's next? Last week of normie meets. One more week of normie meets, and then it's championship season and the conference championships start. What we're watching is the regionals bubble. Pitt, Washington, Penn, and Illinois are currently just out of regional spots. They wouldn't qualify if the season ended right now, but they're very close. They're right in it, so I'm keeping an eye on that.
And now it is time for your feedback. You can send feedback in to GymCastic at gmail.com. And first one up, American Cup thoughts.
Okay, Eliza says, why in the world was there no announcer for the international feed? For context, I'm watching from Helsinki, and although I have an American credit card that could enable me to use Peacock with a VPN, I can't stand commercials, so I didn't go that route. However, I've only been a serious fan of gymnastics since the Paris Olympics. I can't flip a switch and magically have the decades of knowledge that enable experienced fans not to care when there aren't announcers, so it really ruins it for me not to have them, especially because the international feed just had the chance to watch Winter Cup with announcers. The lack this time felt like a massive oversight. It was especially glaring when I realized how much more I enjoyed watching the Stanford versus UCLA meet because the production quality was so much better. Does anyone in a position of power at USA Gymnastics watch NCAA? All I could do today was imagine some future scenario where Jessica could pose this question to someone on the Trident or whoever. Why no announcers? Why the continued abysmal production quality? Are they actively trying to be a global embarrassment when they treat the international fandom this way for an international competition? I remember seeing some of the current UCLA team compete at Winter Cup last year, and they just seemed miserable and afraid to me, as opposed to radiating joy, Sumana Sakura, or confidence, Sullivan with UCLA. So I just can't wrap my hand around why USA Gym doesn't appear to learn from NCAA. Though when I think about it, the opening art piece was perhaps the most egregious. Can someone please tell USA Gym how absurdly inappropriate it is for it to feature a very young girl in a leotard doing gymnastics on a video available to anyone with an internet connection, given we are in the times of the Epstein files and grok porn bots? If I have the ex-Twitter terminology wrong there, it's because the subject's too horrific for me to seek out more information, but you know what I mean. Full disclosure, I've only watched 40 minutes of the stream so far, because in addition to the lack of announcers, it is particularly enraging to hear the in-person announcer mention other competitors that we, as viewers, don't actually get to see compete. Update, I see that USAG has uploaded the Peacock version of YouTube on YouTube. I would also blame the DJ for Alba Batisco's beam falls. How could that tempo not spike someone's heart rate? Awful. Thank you for listening to my rant and for all that you do. I feel as though my subscription would be worth it solely for the moments that you all break stories like the one about Gage. Really powerful work.
Thank you so much for saying that. It makes a big difference to hear that positive feedback. So one thing about the announcers, I think you have to think about it from the USAG perspective, which was this is not their ideal meet. Like, this was not up to the standards of what I think USAG wants to do, because their events are usually very, very well done. And I think it's because this was sort of a last minute thing that was thrown together. So I think next time it will be better. But from USAG's perspective, they would have to hire an announcer or find one of those, someone that wants to do it for free to get the experience. But so to pay the announcer, then they need the sponsorship, with clearly they didn't have, this wasn't even a title meet. So meaning it wasn't even the, tampon American Cup of 2026, whatever.
Not sponsored by a tampon brand, just the tampon.
The concept of tampons.
Yeah. Tampon presents a PSA. This is how you use a tampon.
So I think, or they could put ads in the live stream, which nobody wants. This is the best thing about watching the international feed. There's no ads. I don't know how anyone watches live TV in the United States. I cannot do it. It's unwatchable. And if you guys ever feel like there's too many ads in our feeds, because I try to keep them very limited as possible. You should only have sometimes at the beginning of the show, and then 2 short ad feeds in the middle that shouldn't be longer than like 60 seconds. And at the end, like, let me know. It's less than the recommended amount for a show of our length anyway. So, but I think it would be a great opportunity for them to get some of like the NCAA gymnasts who want to go into announcing, who can do this, but are really, really invested in it and do like, this should be your audition for being a professional announcer, which there's a lot of people that are really serious and amazing and good. Oh, this gives me an idea. I'm going to recommend someone for next year, actually, because she's freaking great. Or Ollie and Blythe. Oh, they were busy this weekend because there was 1,000 World Cups and other meets all around the world. So, also, the DJ was so great, but I understand that, you know, beam to a beat is hard, but you got to train for those things. And then, okay, I don't agree about the acro routine that started. It was, so an acro team, they brought out all the flags, and then they had this little tiny, the most adorable kid you've ever seen in your life with giant glasses, and she was so cute, and you're like, oh, that's cute, she'll do a forward roll. No, totally badass acro gymnast with the full like press handstands from V-sit, like all the, I was like, oh my God. So she looked like she was 5, but she's actually probably like 10 or 12. Amazing. And like, I wanted to cry every time I saw her, and it was so cute. And I felt like, this is the hope for the future. Acro. It's so beautiful, and it doesn't get enough love, and it should, because we're in Vegas and Cirque du Soleil is here, and all these gymnasts could have a future professional career if they're not already like the Japanese and Chinese being paid for what they do. And this is the place, and there's, yeah, it totally lifted my heart. So in person, it was incredible. And if you look at Fact Checker's pictures, maybe you'll have a different feel. But yeah, I agree. No one should ever post anything on X, especially not a gymnastics organization. I totally agree with that. Did I cover all the points? Is there anything I missed that you want to?
I think we're good.
Okay. Daggett back on air.
Nick says, I haven't seen Tim Daggett on my TV screen since 2021 when he last commentated women's gymnastics, or maybe 2022. I don't know. Anyways, has Tim Daggett been in the gym or been getting his tan on? He looks really good. Very different from the pinhead and the oversized USA Gymnastics polo he used to be. I mean, Tim is a rings specialist.
Tim is built.
He is a rings gymnast. I do think he intentionally tanned before this broadcast, though.
Yeah, he did look very, or maybe, you know, he's retired to Florida. That's what people on the East Coast do. But he is built. He is an elite gymnast. So I swear, like Christy Phillips is there, who doesn't work out. My arms she is like in her 50s now. Her arms look like mine did when I wrestled in my 20s, and she doesn't work out. Like, these people are genetic freaks. They are, yeah. So he always, I think, yeah, he looks like that. It's crazy. But I think he did a good job with his presentation. Because, you know, I go on and I'm like, do I look orange? I'm so white. Everything makes me look orange. But I do not care enough to ever tan. Obviously, tanning is bad for you. You should paint yourself with henna. That is what fake tan is, henna, right? Spencer, tell me.
I don't know the details.
With your deep knowledge of fake tanning. Can you imagine Spencer fake tanned? Oh, I would die, you guys.
I don't know how anyone has the energy for any of that stuff.
They don't. They just stand in that booth. And
even
you
that, you have to there's a booth? Oh, God.
Oh, well, you know, I mean.
Go anywhere. I'm so tired.
If you had to be semi-naked in front of a crowd, you still wouldn't care. American Cup, right or wrong / improvement?
Maggie says, thank you for always bringing the gymnastics news, analysis, and humor to light. First, my thoughts on American Cup. Aside from the atrocity of not having vault, I really enjoyed this format. While I love floor and don't want to get rid of it, I think there's an argument for having a shared event, and let's be real, men's and women's floors are not the same. I feel like they should be able to set up an arena that has the events they had with a vault as well. That gives each team 4 events to choose from. I also do prefer rings or pommel over P-bars. Personally, pommel horse because it seems the most inconsistent, and the excitement was definitely in the falls. Thank you.
Did Spencer tell you to write this?
One thing I didn't like was how in the last round, the top 2 teams went last with all of their routines. I feel like it would have been better to still have them go last, but still do 2 of each routine from each country at a time. Like before, it felt a little lackluster at the end because of at the end because of that. NBC broadcast was terrible, just bad. International feed was better. USAG didn't lock it down initially, so I watched it sans VPN.
Woo woo.
Here's what the international feed did better. 1, more routines. Still not all, but more. 2, in the arena between rotations, there was a USAG person hyping the drama of the elimination, etc. Where was that on the broadcast? 3, you could hear the inquiries and outcomes of inquiries announced inside the arena, which I loved. Again, drama. If they want to bring in non-gym fans into the fold, they need drama. On an unrelated American Cup note, Sunday NCAA meets. At the Elevate meet, they kept doing a split cam of Cecile when Georgia was on floor, and it was top tier. Florida versus LSU was a great meet to watch. All the drama and routine for routine in terms of winning. I love Spencer's take on the scoring of the meet. It was interesting. Did I sufficiently do my take on the scoring of the meet? It was interesting.
Yes, that was accurate. Okay, a couple of things about this. To your point about I don't know. One thing I really liked about this meet was that when the judges walked out, the men and the women judges all walked out side by side at the same time into the arena. And it was an army of judges because it's all the men's and all the women's together. It was so many judges. And I just love that part, that for once they're all together. Like the gender togetherness of this made me very happy. And I don't know if you guys saw that on the international stream, but it would make me happy if you did. Which reminds me, we have a bunch of interviews up on our YouTube channel. If you guys want to check it out, and more to come from the meet. And also, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. You guys are so many. What I wish you had seen is I wish they had a split screen of another routine happening so you could see when there was a fall, or they replayed it, because when that happened and there were so many falls, because also the pressure of this meet was crazy. And it was just like, oh shit, oh my God, are they going to make it? Like, it made it more exciting. And I know people be like, oh, it was a splat fest, or that was a lot of falls or whatever. But like, that's sports and that's pressure. And it makes it more exciting when that happens. It sucks for the athletes, but also this was such a great meet to go to, because the only athletes that have ever done this format meet with these events, because Euros was different, are the athletes that were here that's going to be in the Olympics. They had such a big advantage now experiencing this. And I think it's really going to make a difference for them. And also now, I mean, they can do it again in Vegas, and Vegas is way drier than LA, but prepare yourself for the heat and bring an air and humidifier, you guys. That's what you should always do. Okay. Also, I did get the scoop. Beforehand, I was like, oh my God, USAG better treat the gymnasts so well, because remember that time that Mustafina was like, this is the worst meet I've ever been to. It was a terrible hotel. The food was terrible. So the athletes they're in a hotel that they got in the upgraded rooms that were brand new and renovated. So, and Cirque du Soleil took a ton of teams, Japan, the British, and a few other teams went to see at Cirque du Soleil show, which is such a cool show. And I love that Cirque du Soleil did that too, because they are showing them like, oh, gymnastics doesn't have to be just this. You can have this long career going into the circus after this, and you don't have to live in Vegas to do it. You can be on these touring shows, and after that you can learn to be a producer, a director. Like, there's so many skills that you can go into other professions too once you've done Cirque, in movie work and TV work, all that kind of stuff. So they all talked about that as one of the most fun things they did while they were there, except Daiki was like, and then I want to do shopping. I wonder if Daiki has a secret purse fetish like our Philippines two-time Olympic champion, Carlos Yulo. And if he does, I'm going to find out, and also challenge him to bring one of his purses out to a final. More sponsorships for Daiki. That's what I want. Or a couple noodles. Whoever pays more, Chanel or a cup of noodles? Who do you think? Okay. Where can the people find us this Saturday night, Spencer?
College and Cocktails after Utah at UCLA. Which is only on BTN, because once again, Fox, you could have put it on Big Fox. That's what I'm saying.
9:30 p.m. Pacific,
That'll
9 or 9:30.
The meet's gonna end at like 9:30.
Okay, so it's going to be very late.
It's gonna be very late.
But for our listeners in Europe, you can. What time will it be?
It's gonna
for you
be
guys?
very early.
6 a.m. if you get up at 6 a.m. Also, so we'll be at the meet. If you want to say hi, I will be there anyway in Fact Checker. We'll see you later this week for the Fantasy podcast and then College and Cocktails. And remember, you don't have to listen live to those. You can add it to your favorite podcast player. So you can listen whenever it's convenient, like when you're awake, for instance. But we will have special guests on this week's College and Cocktails. So until Saturday night for College and Cocktails, remember to take off on gay, split on rights. Don't forget to set your fantasy lineup. And thanks for listening.